For the best news, debate, and analysis of New York politics, join us inside City Hall. Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Monday, January 22nd, 2018. I'm Errol Lewis. After a busy and chaotic day in our nation's capital, Congress voted late today to end the nearly three-day-long federal government shutdown. For tonight's top story, let's go to our Samantha-Jo Roth in our Washington, D.C. bureau. Good evening, Samantha-Jo.
Well, hey, Errol, a lot of action here on Capitol Hill as the government shutdown nears an end. And this is as Republicans and Democrats voted to approve a 3-week temporary funding measure in both chambers of Congress.
After a 60-hour standoff in the Senate, lawmakers compromised on a short-term spending measure to reopen the government through February 8th.
The yeas are 81, the nays are 18.
Democrats gave up their demands for immediate protection of roughly 690,000 undocumented immigrants who were brought here as children, with the promise from Majority Leader to bring a vote to the floor on legislation to grant legal status to so-called dreamers if an agreement is not met by the February 8th deadline.
This immigration debate will have a level playing field at the outset and an amendment process that is fair to all sides.
While this procedure will not satisfy everyone on both sides, it's a way forward. I'm confident that we can get the 60 votes in the Senate for a DACA bill.
Lawmakers now have to get to work on a deal that will address both DACA and border security. And they have 3 weeks to do it, or we'll be back in a similar situation when the budget expires.
These days, you never know who to deal with when it comes to the Republicans. The Republican leaders told me to work out a deal with the White House. The White House said work it out with Republican leaders on the Hill.
The White House says they're hopeful an agreement can be reached.
We've laid out what we want, and we hope that Democrats, we know they agree on most of those components, and we hope that they'll come to the table ready to actually make a deal and less focused on playing political games.
Well, Democrats and Republicans will need to get on the same page within their parties as we move to the next stage of those negotiations. Now, we are hearing that the government will be open for business tomorrow morning. Errol?
So now, Samantha-Jo, if we're going to be back in the same position by February 8th, what is expected to change between now and then?
Well, Errol, what we're going to have to see is Democrats and Republicans actually talking to each other, because that's not something that we have been seeing over the last, I would say, 3 months or so. We keep having these temporary spending bills, and no one is talking to one another. So what they got to do is they've got to get in a room, and probably a few of them, not 20, 25. That doesn't really do them any good. Find their negotiators, get in a room, figure out what exactly they each are able to compromise on, and do it. And, maybe, making sure that the White House has their input. But, as we've seen over the last few weeks, the White House input has really derailed a lot of these negotiations. So they've really got to find a balance here within themselves and with the president and the president's staff.
Okay, we're going to leave it there for now. Thanks very much.